Welcome to Android Authority on Air, the original Android Hangout show on Google+. I'm Derek Ross.
I'm Scott Anderson.
And I'm Dan Charlton.
And we are joined with special guest Francisco Frank, who you may recognize from various apps on the Play Store as well as kernels for Android or XDA developers. Francisco, thank you for joining us.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
If you're a fan of the show, you may recall we actually had Francisco Frank on here about a year ago. He was on the 5th episode of the show, so it's been a while since we had him on here. Last time he was on here with us, we talked about his ever-increasingly popular kernel, which I called Franco kernel, and then found out that I was pronouncing his last name incorrectly. It's just, and we had a nice laugh about it.
Oh, yes, we
did. And we also talked about Android 4.0.4 because it had just came out. So a lot has changed since Android 4.0.4 and the original Franco kernel updater app. Since then, he has added a free addition to his app, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. He has added support for more devices, more kernels, obviously, as new devices have come out over the past year. He has added a Nexus 4 display control, separate app, as well as a simple CPU monitor extension for dash clock widget. So if you're on Android 4.2 and you're rocking dash clock widget, because everybody should be using that because it's awesome, you should check out his extension for it. And then he also has a simple reboot app if your ROM that you're running doesn't have reboot bootloader and recovery, stuff like that. So, Francisco, once again, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. We have a bunch of questions lined up for you. And those of you that are watching live or listening live, either on Google Plus or YouTube, if you have any questions about any of his apps, why he's awesome, or anything like that, feel free to go ahead and drop a comment, and we will be watching for those comments, and we'll add the question to the queue. So feel free to ask away.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so starting off, what devices do you support for your kernels? I know it's a list.
Since the beginning or just only now?
Correct.
How about now?
Okay, so now I have a Galaxy Nexus, Nexus 4, the Nexus 10, and the Nexus 7.
Okay.
So everything inside the Google ecosystem, basically.
The Nexus.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of your steps that you go through when you conceptualize an app? Like, how does it come to be?
Oh, that's a hard question because I haven't made that many apps.
You haven't made one in a while. So I guess let's say, why did you get into developing your most popular app? Is obviously your kernel updater app. So why did you decide to update or to add that and continue adding features to it and so forth?
Probably because I wanted people to flash the kernels easily without the problem of rebooting to bootloader or going to the stupid recovery. So they just 1 click, 2 clicks most, and done. And most people just don't go over to XDA developers to check if I have a new version. And they can just open an app and see, whoa, there's a new version. So let's 1 click and have it. See the changelog there, and it's hassle-free. And UI, right now, it's great, but it's been evolving for a while. But try to follow the Google guidelines so it's easy for everyone, even geek or non-geek. So, and it helps a lot for people to manage their actual kernel options, because I've been adding stuff for a while on all my old devices, and it's kind of hard to keep track of all the paths to go geek mode and shell and type it all. Even I don't know every path from out of my head. So using the app works, and people like it for that because it's just easy and it works.
Okay.
So I just wanted something that people would recognize, that be helpful, and they would actually use it every day.
Okay.
and I use it every day. So I'm my main customer myself. I made it for myself. Then the other people enjoying what I like to do. So that's probably the biggest reason. Making stuff that I would use first, and then give it out for free or not. So depending on the amount of work I have.
Okay. Um, I believe I remember what your favorite device was when we last spoke. Now that new devices have been released, what's your daily driver and what's your go-to device?
Oh my god. I'm not sure I can say what's my daily driver. It's not secret stuff, but I better not say it. But
Well, I
use
remember talking about the Galaxy S3
Yeah.
a year ago when you were
Yeah,
last on the
yeah.
show, and
I
you
use-
said, if I remember correctly, it was quote unquote shit.
yeah, I had a bunch of problems with that device.
You and about 50 million other people.
It's not very developer friendly. Anyway, but my daily driver, it's the Nexus 4. It's the best device I've ever used. I'm very happy with it. And I saw the Galaxy S4 today, and besides the awesome screen, I'm not going to change because I'll use Google's experience and I'll use build quality that's iPhone like in the Nexus 4. And it just works, in my opinion. And I kind of like building code for this chip because the Qualcomm is very free open source, and so the code is good, it's clean.
Aurora
So
helps a lot, and Qualcomm's code has gotten a lot better over the last 18 months or so.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, they're getting better, and the code is well documented. The comments are extensively documented.
Yep.
And it's easy to go around and change it and make it better if I want to. But I'm sure we go down to change this sometime soon. It is.
Okay. Another question. Do you plan on? I know that you make apps for rooted devices and for like a specific demographic. Do you plan on making any apps for the general public? Something that doesn't require root, something that anybody really on any device could download and use?
Yeah, probably. Right now, I don't have any plan, but I've been thinking, and that's my big goal for the next 6 months, for sure. Maybe 6 months, 1 year. We'll see what happens when I'm done with my training, or the place where I'm in at the moment. After that, I'll have time for developing something out of the Nexus range or out of the routing kernel stuff, because that's gotta expand.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Question from YouTube: will you buy a GS4 and develop a kernel for it? I think I know the answer.
No, I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, that's not. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but it's 99%. It's not going to do anything.
If somebody buys you a device.
If someone gives me the device, like, okay, I give you this, can you do it? I would do it, but I'm not going to waste my own resources for something I won't use first. I won't enjoy second, and that I don't have any particularly enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to advise you against the offer to let people buy one for you, because people will end up taking you up on that offer, and then you'll end up supporting 25 devices and burn it out.
Yeah, it's more. I've been there. I had 6 devices at some point, and it's impossible. And that time I was doing only this of my life, and I decided, okay, it's impossible. It's very hard, and I would forget one, and because it's really hard. Even now, the Nexus 10 at the moment, it's the one I've been working less because I enjoy it so much, and I don't need to change stuff there. And
Yeah.
I don't want people to get upset with me because I just stopped supporting something. So better not to support than actually drop it. And I did that. I had to drop for 2 devices, and that wasn't very funny. And people, of course, they get mad. But I'm human. I'm human. I can't do it everything. It's very hard.
Yeah. Another question from YouTube regarding the hot plug, the recent hot plug implementation.
Awesome.
What is the current development on it? Are there plans to improve it? What kind of general?
Yeah, I'll give a general thing. So I don't know if everyone knows, but Qualcomm devices ship with something called MP decision. It's like a user space binary that takes care of that. It uses the power hole and the socket interface to communicate between the kernel and user space. And well, it kind of works. The device is very smooth, but I think the core management is poorly done. Hoff goes online, offline too much for no reason. And at the same time, it manages the frequency of the CPU. You touch the screen, it goes to maximum. The other cores go up, so you'll get throttled pretty soon. You can see all the reviews of the Nexus 4. All the reviewers said, "Oh, this is getting hot," and the benchmarks are really low because of that. So that aside, I used something else. I used the hot plug drivers from a guy called Will for a while, but I wasn't very happy with it. And I, like 1 month ago, I decided, okay, I'll write my own from scratch. And what I want basically is maximum UI smoothness, basically just making at least 2 cores online and locking them up until the interactivity is done. So you'll still have all your smooth. And that's connected to the interactive governor. I made some hooks around. So the interactive tunables scale based on load automatically. So that's kind of awesome. It locks the frequency speed to a certain level as well. So, and then if the load is really big for some samples, it unlines all 4 cores, and they'll keep using the 4 cores until that load is done. For example, if you're gaming using MP decision from Qualcomm, it goes online, offline too much, and either have a very smooth experience or you don't. And now there's a bunch of people that run tests for me on the threads on XA developers, and we got more than 5 frames per second increase on some games compared to a more stock experience. And games like Beach, Buggy, Blitz, or whatever the name is, and 5 frames per second increase, 6 GTA, blah. So at this point, I'm really happy with it. Battery life is great. Everyone is happy. It's very configurable. You can change all the thresholds for all the levels. So I'm very happy with it right now. My goal from here is add some thermal throttling capabilities to the driver, because right now I'm only decreasing the speed of the CPU if it gets hot. But of course, if they're online, they'll keep online. So what I'm going to do now is take 2 out, but don't decrease the frequency that much, so that keeps a balance. And the games benefit more from actual frequency than from cores online, so that will probably help a little bit. Well, I have a few ideas about what frequencies I want the CPUs to jump in when they go online instead of going from the minimum to somewhere else. So I keep reading the code, and I'll eventually find something that can be improved. So those are the two things I'm more into it. I got a lot of feedback from the community all the time, so I love that. I think if anyone's watching, and I love that. So that's constructive criticism. I'm always open for that all the time, and I read everything. So.
All right. Power mode presets for the Nexus 4. When are they coming?
Sooner, very sooner than later. Trust me.
Okay.
I was kind of waiting for this milestone to come, which came 4 days ago, probably,
yeah.
And I was waiting for that, and that comes for the next. I'm going to make them just for the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 4. It's really soon, like a few days from now,
cool.
maybe in the weekend, after the weekend. So that's and I'm going to change all that interface sooner as well, because it needs to be more powerful. So.
Okay, and then for there's a feature called System Monitor. It's basically an app that's integrated. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'll be very happy to talk about it. So my best friend called Christian, he decided to make an app called System Monitor to actually monitor everything about your device in an awesome looking UI using the new guidelines from Google. And since I'm friends with him and he decided to make a free app, we talked, and I integrated the free part on my app so that people would have the benefit of enjoying the free part on my app. And if they like that, every 5-6 times they would open that option. I would open the dialog there and say, this app is from that developer. If you like it, you can purchase it. So it's like a trade back. But
that's a very interesting idea, because you're obviously a successful developer. I'll call you that. I'll go out and I'll put my neck out there and say that you're doing a hell of a job at making kernels and then your updater app. So you're giving new little guys that are just getting into developing or that aren't well known a chance to have access to a lot of people. That's awesome. You don't really see that. I can't think of that being done anywhere before.
Well, that was my big goal, and I wanted to get him known because I love the app. I think everybody should buy it. I use it every day for the features. Some features I suggested to him, and he did all the job anyway, but some features we kind of talked. So it's good that people get to know the app. I can show a little bit of the app if that's okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and bring it up here on your tablet. I'll focus the screen on you there.
Yeah, this is my Nexus 4. So you can see it's monitoring all the 4 cores. 3 are online, so you can see all the graphics here. So this is the full app, by the way.
So those of you that are watching later or listening on SoundCloud and aren't actually watching live, he's actually demonstrating right now on screen what the System Monitor app actually looks like and how it functions.
Yeah. So this is the full app. You see on top of everything, there's a small window there. That's something I like to call Flying Monkey, but the real name for it's Flying Monkey. Just the stupid name I figured one day, and it stick between us. But the real name for it is Flying Monitor. It's like all the graphics and about the CPUs, and they go online, offline. So below, it's the RAM manager, the RAM monitor. This is the network or UI. I can't read it from here. I/O disk graphics. You see, this is the network, and this is the top apps. Yeah. You can see there's a bunch of stuff you can see here. Besides this, there's also battery prediction. It's a great algorithm. There's so many stuff to monitor your device that everybody would be very dumb not buy this. I'm sorry.
It's a very full-featured app.
All right, so I have a question for you, Francisco. So you're obviously doing something that I think is pretty noteworthy, pretty revolutionary, because I don't see it done a lot. You're giving a new developer a chance to reach a lot of people. Are you going to extend that offer in the future to other developers? And if so, how can somebody enroll in this new program? How can someone contact you to do this?
Well, sure. Hit me an email and we can talk about that. Sure, if that works for me. I don't want to sound selfish, but of course it has to work good for me.
Oh, obviously, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, so so if someone pitches you like an Angry Birds clone, you may not include it,
Yeah, sure, of course. So if that works for me and for my users, I mean, when I talk about my users, if it works for them, it's something we can work out. Like I worked out with him. With us, it was like 2 minutes conversation and we were done. But anyway, if someone wants to and thinks it's useful for everybody and I can help with that, sure, hit me an email and
okay. Well, we have a bunch of additional YouTube comments, and we're going to put those on hold for a little bit. We're not ignoring them. I've been pinned here in the queue. We'll get back to them in a little bit, so you can still go ahead and ask any question you want to hit up Francisco for. But I have a question for him about developing in general. You've been, at least a year, maybe longer. You've been
a little bit longer, yeah.
Developing for Android, apps and kernels. So you're versed in how Android works. Where do you see Android going in the future? Where do you see it going, changing and taking on new devices, new shapes and forms?
Well, that's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it. I think it will be more person oriented, more social oriented. If you see all the news from that messenger bubble stuff, for example, I know that the next version will have something called the Game Center as well. So something like iOS. So I haven't seen it, but I know it's going to come. So
Yeah.
here we go, freebie.
So,
Anyway,
so what about? Could you see yourself? There's rumors that a smartwatch from Google is going to be, that Google's working on a smartwatch. Let's say that is true, and they put out a watch. Could you, and let's say it's open for developers to hack and slash a kernel for. Could you see yourself developing a kernel for that, or maybe Google Glass, wearable tech? Would you consider doing that in the future if those avenues became available?
well, I'm not so sure. Messing with kernels for those devices, it's intelligent because you want them to work all the time. You're not actually going to debug stuff on the Google Glass or debug stuff from your watch. You want them to work. So I trust Google will do their good job making kernels for them. And I'm not so sure I would want to mess with that because we want to see your time on your watch, and we don't want you to reboot. So I see myself making apps for them.
But having your phone be unstable is okay, is what you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah. I can always pick up another phone.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's unstable, but it can happen.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I'd rather have my phone crash than my Google Glass, and I'm driving and I'm seeing the directions to go to In-N-Out Burger, and I want that burger so much that I don't know where I am, and that thing just crashed. That would be funny.
No, that would not.
No, that's my take on it. But apps, sure.
Okay, quick questions. Shout out, I'm a Nexus guy. I have Nexus 4 using your latest 134 kernel. Loves it. HTC One getting the kernel?
No, sorry.
No? Okay.
No more HTC for me. No more. Never.
Would you ever consider...
I know the feeling.
Another one, would you ever consider Sony support in the future?
I haven't, but I like the way they're going right now.
Okay.
I like the latest one, the Z, maybe?
The Z, yeah.
Yeah, it's not there yet, but in like a year, if they keep doing what they're doing, if I like the device, sure.
Somebody wants to know the name of the app that you just showed us.
It's called System Monitor. Just
System Monitor.
Yeah, really.
The developer's name is Christian, I believe it's Gollner.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to Google I/O?
Unfortunately, no. I couldn't get a ticket.
Derek, are you going?
You didn't buy one in the 60 seconds that were on sale?
I couldn't. It was impossible.
Yeah, I tried to get one and was unable to as well. But that's okay. I will spend my money elsewhere on glass here, hopefully in a few weeks, whenever I get my invitation email.
But I'll be going to the barbecue.
You were supposed to go to the Big Android barbecue last year, my friend, and you let me down.
I couldn't because of the visa bastards.
Yeah, I know. But hey, you know what? You're now in the U.S. You're already here. You don't have to worry about any of that crap.
It's true. Once you're in the States, getting around is a lot easier.
So I will drink beer with you at the Big Android barbecue. And we might even talk about Android stuff. It's not all about drinking beer. It's actually all about drinking beer.
That's even better.
All right, so let's talk. Let's put Franco all the things on hold for a little bit. If we have some time at the end, we'll come back and hit him up with some questions about development, his apps, kernel development. Maybe even talk about System Monitor for another bit. But let's move on to some Android ecosystem stuff, Dan.
Yeah. So IDC, who's a company that does a lot of different statistics reporting on industry trends, put together the latest numbers for the first 3 months of 2013. So that's Q1 2013 for tablet shipments. And they're estimating that just under 50 million, 49.2 million tablets shipped. Derek, is this US or worldwide? We'll have to look that up.
I don't know.
US statistics, though.
I don't know.
This could
I
be-
think those are just U.S. statistics. I'm going to go out on a limb. I honestly don't know. That's
Yeah,
bad.
they seem low for global. But the big news there is that 27.8 million of those were Android devices, and only 19.5 million iPads shipped last
It really doesn't matter if it's U.S. or global. We really care about the percentages
Yeah.
here. Like it did.
Yeah, that's true. So Android raked in 56.5% of the market compared to Apple's 39.6%, compared to the first quarter of last year where those numbers were almost exactly the opposite, with Android getting 39.4% and Apple getting 58.1%.
So the tides have really shifted. Like
Yeah.
they've from a year ago where Android was at almost 40%, and now Apple's almost at 40%. I mean that's amazing in a year turnaround time how much they grew.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible growth by Android. Meanwhile, the others category, which I have to assume includes Windows, but probably others too, went from 1.5% last year to a massive 3.9% this year. So
Hey, that includes the BlackBerry. I don't even know what that thing is called.
yeah, the BlackBerry, whatever it was, the HP touchpad, the different Windows RT tablets for 2013, but not so much for last year's numbers. But yeah, this means that really Microsoft really is selling some of those things.
Yeah.
Or so they say.
At least one or two of them.
You know what, Dan? When these numbers came out, Dan, a lot of people were. So when these numbers came out, a bunch of blogs in Silicon Valley, tech blogs, were saying, "Hey, look, Samsung lost to Apple. Apple sold more devices than Samsung." They weren't saying that Android was sitting at 56% and iOS was at 39%. They looked at the actual manufacturers selling these devices. And
That's
said,
because a lot of the writers are on the payroll of Apple still. Apple is notorious for paying bloggers to write favorable about Apple commentaries. So when something is not favorable for Apple, like, oh God, we lost 25% of the market in a year, so the story becomes, oh yeah, but you're still beating Samsung, so it's totally fine. Yeah, typical pro-Apple media BS.
So, Francisco, what do you think about the tablet market share in Android? Gaining 25%. Are you seeing a lot of new users for the Nexus 7 and Nexus 10 downloading your kernel?
Sure. They have been doing that, but while I have the two Nexuses, I still think the iPad has an edge over Android because I'm still not buying the UI that Google's made for tablets. It's not optimized enough, in my opinion. And while I don't use my iPad anymore because I use my Nexus 10, I think Apple still has the big thing over tablets. And iOS lovers or Android lovers can say whatever they want.
Well, the device costs, a little bit more too.
Maybe that's why it's gaining 25%. The UI might not be 100%, but when you're
the price helps.
But the price definitely helps.
Yeah,
the Nexus 7 price helps a lot, and people
but
it's easy to buy one and trash it and be fine with it. And if you lose it, it's okay. It's cheap. If you lose an iPad, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that the edge that you see in the iPad versus the Android tablets, do you think that's inherent to the operating system, or do you think that's ecosystem based?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I think the hardware, especially on the iPad, I think it has a little bit of an edge over even the Nexus 10. GPU struggles a lot to make that happen, the big resolution. So
Well, to be fair, the chip in the Nexus 10 is kind of unimpressive.
it's not that bad. I think they should have gone to a different GPU, and
Well,
like
yeah.
the one for the iPad 4.
Could have got their crap together and made a Cortex A15 when they planned to about 8 months earlier than that.
Yeah, but the software, I think Android is still not prepared for tablets as it should. It's my opinion. So
All right, so let's see, maybe if Android is, unprepared for tablets, maybe we'll find out some new stuff at Google I/O, which is in 2 weeks. And there's a lot of speculation right now. Are we going to see Android 4.3? We're going to see Babel. There's we're going to see something awesome coming with Chrome and Android. But I'm going to connect some dots for everybody here. I'm going to draw some lines and throw some stuff at a board and see what happens. So, looking back over
wait. Are you gonna pull a Samsung?
No, I'm not gonna throw 900.
I'm just gonna throw every idea I've ever had.
I'm not gonna give everybody like 50 different ideas and be like, oh, see, look, I called it. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna give my one speculation on something I think is coming, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong here in 2 weeks. So, we know that Android Gaming, a game center, was found in the My Glass Android app a couple weeks ago thanks to a teardown by Android police. We saw an Android game center. We saw it was going to do all these things that a game center should have. Okay, so there's your first dot. Now let's backtrack to about a year ago when when Google Plus games and Chrome games were being talked about a lot. One of the guys in charge of the project said, a year from now, or something along the lines of this, we're not going to talk about Android games and Chrome games and Google Plus games. We're just going to talk about Google games. So we said, oh, look, one day, games are going to be unified. But, it was just, off the top of his head type thing. There was no date. There was no firm saying, we are definitely doing this. But it's like, someday this might happen. Now, looking back a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, maybe more, not 100% sure on the time frame, but you remember that maze game and the race game where you could hold up your Android phone or your Android tablet, open up Chrome, go to a special URL, and then you could go to a special URL on your desktop computer or laptop, and you could use your Android devices as a game controller, and you could control the maze, you could control the characters running the race, riding the bike, swimming, and so forth. So you used your phone as a gaming controller, and your TV or your monitor was the big screen, and you say that there was Chrome gaming, and it was a Chrome experiment. Now, it was all well and good, it was all fun, and it was neat, but it wasn't super, super exciting. It was just something thrown together to make people say, oh, wow, that's cool. But what if it was testing the functionality of using Android, using your phone, using your tablet as a game controller? Now, Google has done things like this before. Those of you watching on Google Plus right now, remember when Hangout mustaches first came out and everyone thought they were the coolest things ever? And then, for some unknown reason, 2 months after Hangout mustaches came out and everybody used them, we got facial recognition on Google Plus Photos. Huh. And I remember making a comment saying, hey, thank you, Hangout mustaches. And I remember getting that comment +1 by a few Googlers. And Goog 411 for years was used and given away for free. We know that is why Google has a better voice recognition system than Apple does, than Siri, because they data mined speech and use our speech for years, building up their system. So Google does these cool little things for free all the time, and they turn into something big. Now, Ingress is, Ingress is a game that's fun, but it's also data mining everything. We're walking around paths to monuments. We're walking around, it's scanning Wi-Fi networks. It's data mining everything. So Ingress is doing something more than just a game. So my point is that Google does this stuff all the time. It wouldn't put it past I wouldn't put it past them to do this. Anyways, back to my conspiracy theory. Google I/O this year, there's a lot of game stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of gaming going on, talking about a lot of games. One of the major sessions is called, hey, look what we did with web technology. We built an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game with web technology. And you're like, oh, that's interesting to have it Google I/O. So there's a lot of gaming stuff happening. Put all that gaming stuff happening that we already know is coming, and then speculated to come, and then coming at some point, and then we say, well, competitors are putting out all these little HDMI game sticks, or Ouya is putting out a GameCube, and Nvidia. So all these companies are using Android for gaming, and Google isn't doing it. And Google hasn't said, yes, we're doing this, or yes, we're aware that this can be done. Now there's the Google TV, but people don't use that to game, and Google TV, quite frankly, hasn't been a hit. It hasn't been. It hasn't sold 100 million devices. But you know what sells 100 million devices? Game consoles do. So
Xbox, PlayStation.
I think that we're going to see, call it a gaming stick, and it doesn't really matter what it is. If it's a stick or it's a little cube, or a little console. I don't care what the form factor is. I think we're going to see a gaming device, a piece of hardware, be released, and it's going to be Google's answer to what Samsung is putting out there with their connected TV. It's going to be their answer to Ouya. It's going to be their answer to all the other little companies that no one's ever heard of putting out HDMI sticks for Android TV. So I could be crazy, I could be wrong, but I'd make a bet on this. I said I really think that we're going to see a Google gaming system, and it's going to be a piece of hardware, and it's going to come out at I/O. Okay. And that's going to be how Google takes over the living room. It's not going to be with Google TV. Google's going to take over the living room and compete with Xbox foothold in the living room, and they're going to do that with Android. Oh, another tidbit: a Google TV developer on a Google TV session description. It's called Android on your TV, and the session says something along the lines of come and see the new Google TV platform, or come and see the new platform for Google TV. So they're talking about something new. It's not Google TV. They're talking about something new.
Yeah, it's Miracast.
Well, I said it could be Miracast, but I said something big's going to happen around games, and it's going to be hardware. So
Miracast.
It very well could be. It very well could be Miracast. They could be putting out a dongle, and it.
Miracast.
Yeah. So
yeah, get my word from it.
Yes.
All right. So
sorry for interrupting.
No. You think it's going to be a Miracast device?
A dongle, Miracast.
Yeah.
And let's go. Keep going.
I don't know. I kind of see him going for something even bigger. Right? I think you're right probably about most of the gaming and the implications of all of that, but I see that as just being one piece of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle. Looking at what they did last year with the Nexus Q, and they were really kind of trying to push the whole Android at home type, thing.
I agree with Derek. I agree with Derek, and they will support everything on top of that game center that they've been.
No, I mean that's my point. Is it's going to be a full system center, a media center, a hub. It's going to be doing your music streaming, your video streaming, and gaming
from your Nexus device.
Exactly.
Miracast.
Using that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's see if our conspiracy theory is right. I'd like to bet on it, but we don't need to gamble on air. But maybe off air we'll set up a gamble. All right. So let's talk about some apps. We'll see what happens in Google I/O in 2 weeks when we cover that. But for now, let's move on to some apps this week, such as.
Okay, let's. I'm just going to do kind of quick hits with the apps. The Carbon, the backup app data, got renamed to Helium after a cease and desist from Carbonite, the file backup company. If you're a small-time dev, I assume that it would be easier to get out of the way rather than try to back up the name. So, yeah, it got changed. Level Up Studio.
An element on the periodic tables is called Carbon, so I don't know how you can.
Yeah, I don't know. Beautiful Widgets released a basic functionality app. Allows you to have a free version, which is nice. Pretty cool.
Sucks for all the people who bought it like 3 years ago.
What?
I said sucks for all the people who bought it like 3 years ago.
Well, no, it's basic functionality. It's not like everything.
No, I know.
And then Yahoo bought Astrid, the to-do app that is very popular, and it's going to be shutting down So to those premium users, I'm sorry. And then we got Microsoft released an Android app that repairs you from switching to a Windows phone, pretty much by lying to you. Yeah, that's an interesting app. Chrome Beta got updated. Verizon Cloud. Derek, you want to elaborate on that?
Verizon Cloud, is interesting.
How?
Well, they're doing it to compete with AT&T, who already has a backup cloud. That's why they're doing it. They're giving you 500 meg of free space so you can back up files, your contacts, your texts, your phone call history, music, video, pretty much almost everything that you can back up already with Android, except for your call history, unless you're using Google Voice, and your text, unless you're using Google Voice. But yeah, I think it's silly to duplicate what's already available, especially when it's 500 meg. But whatever, if that floats their boat, I keep my data with Google. I see it's silly, but they're not doing it to compete with Google. They're not doing it to be like, hey, look, me too.
No, they're doing it so they can take advantage of uneducated customers.
That's exactly why they're doing it. But,
the sole purpose here is to take advantage of their customers.
No, they're not doing it to take advantage of their customers. It would be actually better worded. They're doing it to make money because they know that people will buy it. So that's what a company does, right?
By way of taking advantage of their customers.
Because Google doesn't go out there and advertise, hey, look, back up infinite contacts, back up, back up all of your 20,000 songs. They don't. Whenever you install Android or get your first Android phone, it doesn't say, hey, look at the 5 gig of storage you get, with your Google account.
Just for having a Google account, you get 10 gigabytes of email storage, 20,000 songs, 5 gigabytes of drive storage, infinite contact storage.
So if you
1 gigabyte of photo storage.
Yeah. So exactly, photo storage on Google Plus, as long as it's not over 2048 by 2048, you get unlimited photo storage.
If it's public on Google Plus, I think it's unlimited. If it's only
no. You can do private, unlimited, whatever you want, as much as you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So
somehow that still dovetails into Picasso, which is limited.
But Picasso's going to die, and they're going to.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, you can't even go to the link. Like, it's nowhere to be found.
Oh, they took it down?
Well, no. It's hard to get to.
We'll get to that later. So apps. Did we talk about switch to Windows Phone yet? Anybody install it? Anybody doing it?
Don't do that.
So how are they lying to you?
That's all.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Microsoft. I mean, I understand what they. No, I don't. I can't weasel my way into that one.
They're desperate.
I think it's hilarious, and they're desperate for customers. So feel free to install it and see the 6 apps that are compatible with Windows Phone.
I have a name for Microsoft that I usually call it, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to say it live.
I'll go ahead and say it live. Scott will bleep it out.
It's microshit.
That's say that. All right, so let's talk about some devices, Scott.
Quick question from YouTube: Apple support future
for what?
Kernel?
Yeah, that can't be done.
For Apple?
The Oppo Find 5.
Oh, I thought you said Apple. Oh, Oppo.
Oh, sorry, no.
Oppo.
Yeah, Oppo.
Well, I don't have the device. Send me a device, and the kernel is similar to the Nexus 4. Send me one, and I'll work on it. Sure.
Okay.
There you go. You heard it here. Send him an Oppo Find 5.
So he needs an S4. He needs an Oppo Find 5.
And no HTC One.
Don't give me that. I won't work on it.
Okay.
He will return that. All right, so Scott, hit us up with some device infos.
Google files a patent for smartwatch with touchpads on the side, wireless transceiver, display, processor, 2 touchpads on the side bezel, pinch, zoom, stretch, possibly scrolling.
I really hope they're just filing for patents related to smartwatches with the intention of sitting on them and screwing Apple. I hope they don't actually make
don't do that.
I think they're stupid. I hope they get the patents just to screw Apple.
But they don't do that. They don't patent to
No,
screw
they
up.
don't.
Funny thing about the Galaxy S4, so Spanish tennis star David Ferrer said, posted on Twitter, "I'm so happy with my new Galaxy S4, setting up S-Health on my new Galaxy S4 to help me with training." Funny thing is, it was posted from Twitter for iPhone.
Oops.
And
Yeah.
well, and the big kicker is that Samsung is a sponsor of the Madrid Open where they were playing. So that was a big PR fail.
Samsung, who's also under investigation for paying people to say bad things online about HTC, now gets caught paying people to tweet about nice things about the S4 from an iPhone.
I've played tennis for 10 years, and for real, and those guys climb mountains as a training process. They don't need LS, or X,
Right.
or
S-Health is
AL,
not going to
whatever,
help them with their training.
or IS, IL, whatever that's stupid.
Whatever letter they want to put in front of it.
Right.
That's just stupid.
No, I agree.
So let's talk about some Google Glass news because that's the latest craze and latest hype. So there's a rumored Twitter app coming, Twitter for Glass. A few posts were found to be similar. How you could see, Twitter for iPhone, where you can see the client that people were using on Twitter. So we saw some posts show up with Twitter for Glass. And then after everybody made a big stink about it, the posts were deleted. So nothing says confirmed like deletion. Yeah, I don't understand why companies don't just leave this up there. As soon as you delete it, then it's real.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? In case it was accidentally deleted and Twitter for Glass is not real, that's okay. A talented developer has Tweet Glass. Or Glass Tweet, Glass Tweet, which does the same thing. It's just not official. It allows you to post from your timeline to Twitter. So,
until like a week from now when Twitter changes the API and breaks the app.
No, yeah, or until it gets 100,000 installs like Falcon Pro, and then you can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
So we know that Glass is running Android, right? It's running Android 4.0.4.
Oh, really? Running
Yes.
Android?
Yep, it's running Android 4.0.4, Ice Cream Sandwich. So there's some neat things you can do with that, such as enable ADB and then sideload apps.
Did you say ice cream sandwich?
I said Ice Cream Sandwich.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure.
So a developer decided to publish an app called Bulletproof, and what it is, it's a lock screen for Glass. Because right now, Glass doesn't have any type of, there's no way to lock it. So if I had Glass sitting on my desk and somebody came into my office and picked it up and put it on, they would just be able to start looking at my personal timeline. Which, a lot of people are going to have Glass on their head all the time, but still.
Yes, tons.
Yeah, so it's still, it should have a way to lock so somebody can't look at your personal information. Now, there's a rumor that Google's, coming out with some type of lock themselves. Maybe it is, some type of a speech recognition or something. Either way, something's coming. But in the meantime, a developer put out an app called Bulletproof where it looks like the Android ICS or Jelly Bean lock screen. It's actually not based off that. He wrote it himself. It's all coded from the ground up, and you can swipe on the touchpad left and right as a gesture, or you can tap the touchpad, and so you can calibrate it. You set it up how many swipes. Maybe you want to do like left right tap tap. Try to do the Konami code or something. I don't know, but you can configure your own tap, and it's actually pretty cool. So once you have your tap configured, you turn on head-on detection if you didn't already. So the first time you pick it up and you put it on your head, it says, "Hey, look, it's now on the head." It turns on. It asks you for your lock screen code. You swipe and tap. You get off the lock screen, and then it doesn't ask you for it again. It's on your head. It won't ask you for it again until you take Glass off and then go to put it back on. So it knows when you take Glass off because of head-on detection. So it's actually really cool. But most people aren't going to install that because you have to install by ADB, but the chances are the people that have Glass right now are developers and savvy enough to do so. We had talked about, I believe, last week briefly that doing an APK decompile and looking at the code, I was able to see that the Glass app, glassgestures.apk, when I decompiled it last week, I saw that it had wink gestures in there, and there was all sorts of code for setting up wink gestures and for blinking or winking to take a picture, and how to calibrate it and how to do all sorts of stuff with winking. And well, Mike, being the talented developer that he is, he went out and developed Winky, which Winky is just an app that you sideload by ADB, and all it does is enable the native code that is in Glass already for winking to take a picture. And it's pretty cool. Glass doesn't need to be on. Right now, to take a picture, you have to hold in the camera button, you have to tap it, or that's option 1. You have to tap it and then say, okay, Glass, take a picture. Or you have to, do your head wake. You flick back to wake up Glass. Then you say, okay, Glass, take a picture. Which is still a hell of a lot better than reaching my hand in my pocket, pulling out my smartphone, doing my unlock pattern, finding the camera app. So that's still awesome. But winking is instant. You wink, boom, you take a picture. And Glass doesn't even have to be turned on. It's just on your head, so the screen can be off, and you wink, and boom, you take a picture. That's completely hands-free, and it's instant versus 3 seconds to,
But is it going to take a picture every time I blink?
No. Glass actually has a whole bunch of code in it, really high-performance code to actually look when you're actually doing a facial scrunch, when you're actually scrunching your eye closed, not just a blink. And it's based on time lengths and everything. It's really sophisticated. So from what Mike was saying, it's not going to confuse just a little, like maybe you have a bug in your eye and you're sitting there going like that. It's not going to do that. It's not going to take pictures then. You have to really maybe close your eye for a second. Okay. So you have to do the scrunch. So it's very cool. Obviously, I don't have Glass, haven't tried it, but I've seen Mike's demo video, and I think it's awesome.
Okay, so this is other next Android version. It's, as far as I heard around there, it's going to be full of gesture stuff, like just what you just described. So,
that's neat. If so, if there's going to be all sorts of gestures coming to mainline Android.
Yeah, it's coming. So.
Well, very cool. All right, so
we can hope that.
Well, good. I'll take that as an unconfirmed report by Francisco Frank.
By someone, yeah.
By someone anonymous that is not on the show right now. All right, so let's talk about some rootin' and ramen stuff real quick. We'll try to wrap up here. We have about 5 minutes or so left. So the HTC One, Will Wheaton, everybody knows him. Wesley Crusher, a big geek superhero, I guess. He was having problems last night rooting his HTC One because it's an HTC phone and they're a pain in the butt. So he was able to successfully unlock the bootloader, but he couldn't mount the partitions in recovery to push a super user to actually do the actual rooting. He eventually got pissed off and gave up. And Koosh, being the awesome guy that he is, came out with a special version of the HTC One recovery called Will Wheaton Recovery. What it does is, if you can get the recovery flashed, it'll root your phone for you. You don't have to worry about finding the partition or pushing super user. So it's a limited edition only for the T-Mobile HTC One and AT&T T1. It roots your phone if you're not rooted. So you flash recovery, you boot the recovery, you select reboot from the menu, and whenever you go to reboot, it says, hey, you're not rooted yet. Do you want me to automatically root this for you? And it does it. And there's a picture of young Wesley Crusher in the background. I think that's pretty cool. So remember...
Personally, I think if you're having that much trouble rooting your phone, you probably ought not.
Oh... He said that when he was having all the problems he was having, it made him miss his Galaxy Nexus because that was a lot more friendly device, which is probably true. So speaking of developer-friendly devices, remember how a few weeks back we found out that CyanogenMod wasn't going to support the Galaxy S4? No, we found out that one developer didn't want to buy the Galaxy S4, and then bloggers around the world blog spammed saying CyanogenMod is not supporting the Galaxy S4. When in fact it was just one dude. You know, it was maybe a couple people on Team Hacksung. A couple people said they aren't going to do it because it's a pain in the butt and they're not doing it. But that doesn't mean the Snapdragon version isn't going to be supported, and that doesn't mean that CyanogenMod isn't 3 or 4 people.
There's 30 or 40 people on their team.
Yeah, so Steve Kondik, aka Cyanogen, posted on Google Plus an image of CM10.1 running on the Galaxy S4 already, but it's not. But he titled it "Not Supported," so take that with a grain of salt. So yes, it is gonna. CyanogenMod is gonna support it. Obviously, I mean it's running CM10.1 right now. So maybe the international version, maybe the Octo isn't gonna support it. Maybe not. Who knows?
You can forget that one. That's for sure.
You don't think? You think that's a definite?
They won't work on accents again. Trust me.
Yeah, Andrew Dodd.
I'm not a big fan of them anyway, but I'm doing that.
Well, Entropy, aka Andrew Dodd, has extensively talked on Google Plus my posts about this, and basically saying that it's a big pain in the ass, and he doesn't want to touch it. So I agree. If you've heard the same thing.
No, they won't do it. It's too painful. No, stupid.
It's not getting better.
And he basically said that Samsung puts out code that says one thing, and then it doesn't match the compiled binaries. Like they're not. There's a disconnect somewhere.
No, they put out code that can't compile. They put code that doesn't match what's in the device. HTC does a lot of this too.
Will Wheaton is an alpha geek. I like that comment. Everybody knows Will Wheaton because we all loved him. However long ago, Next Generation was on TV. I know I did. I thought it was awesome. But so, any more questions for our man Francisco here about anything you want to ask him? What's his favorite color? Go ahead and ask him. He'll answer.
What's your favorite color?
I don't know.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
I don't know the answer.
Maybe the correct answer should have been what's the hex code for hollow blue? Like that's what you should have said.
35B5E5, I think.
There you go.
something like that. Maybe I missed one or two. Don't take that.
Yeah,
it's close.
It's close to that. All right, well, real quick, 30 seconds of patent news. Dan, go.
So the judge in the Microsoft v. Motorola case did something rather unprecedented and set a FRAND rate arbitrarily. No other judge has ever done that before, certainly not in the district court level. In addition to that, this is the same judge who overruled a German court ruling because apparently a judge in Seattle has that kind of authority, and is also basing his entire ruling on the established practices for patents that are part of licensed patent pools. The only problem is the patents at issue in this case aren't part of a patent pool. So his entire legal basis is irrelevant. In more ridiculous patent news, Judge Koh in the Apple v. Samsung case has ordered a new trial for the damages and set the date. It's going to be later this year. They're going to try and keep it short, 2-3 days, and she put all kinds of restrictions on both sides. Though she's leaving an option for Samsung to appeal her decision again if the USPTO makes a final decision on Apple's patent's validity between now and then. The only problem there is the USPTO already made its final decision. Apple can appeal that decision, but their last order is final. That's why they called it their final judgment.
Okay.
So basically she's saying, oh, well, we're only going to bother, going back and waiting if the USPTO comes out between now and then and says, yes, these are definitely invalid, even though Apple says otherwise. The problem is the USPTO could just as easily not care when Apple submits their appeal and never bother looking at it. Their invalidity still stands. So apparently being a judge in America doesn't actually require you to understand American law.
That makes sense.
Well, we know that there's always heat in trouble surrounding patent laws and patents. So I'm sure it's not going to get better until it gets
Yes,
worse.
but there's plenty of intelligent judges like Posner, or I can't remember the name of the judge who was on the
Judge Posner's not like him.
Yeah, he took the time to learn Java because the case was about Java. Like,
Good man.
maybe I should actually have a clue what all of these people are talking about while I'm sitting up here on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, there are good judges out there, but then there's other ones like this who just totally make crap up as they go along. That's obviously not legal. And then say, oh, no, we aren't going to wait until the appeals court, because then I'd have to admit the fact that I've made a ton of decisions that are obviously going to get tossed on appeal.
It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Scott, why don't you do your thing?
All right. You guys watching us on YouTube, if you like us, want to subscribe, go ahead. If you guys don't want to watch us because you don't want to use the bandwidth, or you just don't like the way that we look, you can always listen to us on SoundCloud. Dan, what do you have to say?
Nothing.
Okay. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio. We have a RSS feed. Yeah. iTunes.
Friends.
Yeah. Website. After every show, we post a blog article giving.
You can basically find us all over the internet.
Yeah. AndroidAuthority.com. Franco, you want to shout out anything?
Sure. Thanks, guys, for having me here. It was a lot of fun. And if anyone has more questions, be sure you post on the Google Plus shared post, and I'll hop on there in a few minutes, and I'll try to answer everything. Thanks for, if anyone's watching, thanks for all the support. It's kind of overwhelming sometimes, and that's awesome. And I don't get to talk like this frequently, so thanks so much. And I really
you do great
appreciate
work.
it.
You know, we want to have you back on the show again. Hopefully, it's not a year. Hopefully, we don't wait till next year to have you back. Maybe we'll get back here in another couple months or something, and maybe sometime after I/O, and we'll talk about if we were right or wrong.
Yeah, we'll be talking about 5.0. You'll see.
Scott, this is 3 weeks in a row. We have had a comment to make your damn bed.
I saw the comment.
Every week we get a comment to make your bed.
No.
You keep saying you're going to do it.
I am now going to.
All right, so those of you listening on SoundCloud right now, I envy you. You don't have to look at his messy bed for an hour. All right.
Okay. I will not make it for next time.
All right, Francisco, Frank, thank you again for coming. We loved having you, Dan. It's a pleasure. Scott,
Thanks, guys.
make your damn bed. Good night, guys.
See ya.